Look how I hop out the bag. Look how I hop out the bag. I tell the truth, I can't hide from the shade. Hey.
This dude is decent, bro.
Yes, sir. Me?
That dude's
the
decent.
DJ? The DJ's all right.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The DJ all right, and the people that he's playing as well are quite decent. Listen, Miles Xavier, I don't even want to waste time with it. I don't even want to skip past it. I want to just go straight into it and welcome absolutely everybody to the All the Way Live podcast. This is your boy Zolaki Gila here with my dog Miles Xavier. Say none more than a conversation between two best friends, between two brothers, two black men, just sharing their minds on life, their encounters, and a list of other things. So welcome. Grab a plate, grab a drink, whatever your vice is. Get some of that. Sit down. Join us. We're about to go in.
Hey, bro. I believe we are in it. I believe this is it. We are here.
It is, my brother. Yes, it is. And what I love about this show is the fact that we're very transparent about our growth, about the work that goes into putting this together. You hear my brother Miles say it all the time that you're growing with us.
Indeed.
You're growing with us, and so part of that growth is
even when it's growing pains.
Even when it's growing pains. And Miles, you suggested adding a little bit more structure into this by introducing different topics.
Hit them.
You talk to me about your thought process in getting into adding that portion of structure into our show.
I mean, there's a lot of things that I think it does. I think one of the most important though is the intro, as you graciously welcome us in every time. I think less people know what the energy is like, less people know how we rocking that in the music, the little snippet that you might get. But once we've oriented people energy wise, I think it's also cool to orient people in terms of like, if you do stick around past 30 seconds, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, this is what we're about to get into, right? Or at least try to circle around to, you know what I'm saying? These are the stops in the park. I don't know if we're gonna stay on the I don't know if we're gonna stay on the path,
No, for sure. I do know. And part of that structure is we have broken this podcast up into starting with the Dap Up, which is a segment where we dap on in, where we open up the space for healthy conversation in terms of mind state, how one's is feeling, what type of energy we're bringing into this space. We go then and we talk about the last episode, some of the things that we picked up. That's part of our growing, our growth process in all of this. We hit on some topics that are important, relevant, timely, appropriate, whatever the case may be. We jump into our stumble upon section where we just speak about things that we've stumbled upon over the week that are interesting to share to the people. We then end that with additional topics that are either coming from our fans or things that we didn't get a chance to speak on last week, and finally end it all with conversations with strangers.
I'd listen to that. I'd sit through that.
How's that sound? How's that menu?
I'd hear those things.
For sure. And we're going to give each one of them a go. That's how this podcast is going.
I bet. Well, in giving each one of them a go, I thank you for welcoming us, running us through this topic list. I'm gonna dap in first to give you a second to breathe. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
What's good, people? What's good, family? Yo, it's good to be here. I mean, we're not going to bury the lead on this one. Like, we have a new president. This is our first podcast recording since Joe Biden was elected as president of the United States of America. So that has both like colored every corner of my week, but also somehow not managed to be like the craziest thing that's happened. So I'm in a space of just like, I'm just trying to observe right now. And I was thinking about how to explain how I've been feeling to the pod, right? And like, you know those games where they'll be like, all right, you're about to see some shit, and it'll be like, try and just pay attention to this video because we're gonna ask you questions about this video later, right?
Yes.
This week has felt like the first half of that game where I'm just seeing everything. And I don't know what the questions are going to be, meaning I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
supposed to do with everything that I've been seeing and all these observations. But it feels like the first half of that game where this week has just been like, that's weird. That's weird. That's weird. That's weird. That's weird. You know what I mean? And now
Yeah.
we here, and I'm glad to be in this space to be able to chop up, break down some of those things with you. So that's where I'm at.
What is the general sentiment in the streets and in your circle of people regarding the win? How are people responding and reacting to that?
Well, my circle of people certainly skews toward not hating black people because a lot of
That's
them
a
black,
good thing.
right? So a lot of them were very happy with the outcome, and I think from those who I might suspect wouldn't be as happy, the few that are on like the periphery of friendship that I got, they were mad quiet. It was real quiet.
Mm. It was a quiet weekend indeed. It was a quiet weekend for a lot of my hot friends. It was very,
Mhm.
very quiet.
It was a
It was
quiet,
very quiet.
weekend.
It was a quad hot weekend. So not because we are jumping into the first topic, I'm gonna spin around again with the dap up. Thank you for
Get 'em.
dapping in, my brother, and just let you know that I'm coming in from a digital detox over the weekend. Didn't touch my phone over the weekend. What was that?
I don't know. It sounded like some dishes fell over. I have a creative
Precarious setup.
dish drying arrangement, and so it may
Okay.
have shifted. But
Nah,
continue.
nah, those are problems for later, mouse.
Big facts. Big
Those are
facts.
problems for later, mouse.
Big facts.
The digital detox was not on social media, didn't touch a phone, didn't have a laptop on me for a few days. So I'm very zen, I'm very peaceful, and I come at you with some excitement off of the back of what is, quite quite comfortably placed our first topic, which is the winning of Joe Biden and his electedness. Is that a word? Electedness.
It sounds better to me than his having been elected. So yeah, we'll rock with it.
Yeah, I know, because I was trying to find the swaggiest way to say that. But that being said, him being elected into presidency, and what I was asking you, because you're on the ground, because you are an activist, what what are some of the odd things that you witnessed throughout this voting process, and now that it's over we can look back at it, um and also, how do you feel?
I think the I think brevity is gonna be difficult, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
So the process was very encouraging in that like people were motivated to have in my community, right? I think in democratic left-leaning communities there was a huge push for um voting, right? For engagement, right? And it being recognized by a lot of people, definitely led by women, in particular Black women, um, that this is a part of our civic duty, and it also just like kind of reinforcing that Black people do have power in our vote. Like we make a big difference in these key cities, and when we look at the states that were remaining, it was votes from places like Detroit, from places like Philadelphia, from places like, you know what I mean, all these different spots that have a decent Black population. So I think for those populations in those swing states, I hope y'all and I hope we as a community continue to recognize our power and continue to find it in other things besides national elections and even voting for Congress, continue to vote locally. Um,
Mm.
but so that was really encouraging. And I'm somebody who complains a lot about the level of discourse, right? Like I think that we need to be talking about issues more seriously, more thoroughly,
Mm.
in a way that, you know what I'm saying, reflects the seriousness of the issues. And I saw a lot of people who've been in conversation step up their level of conversation, and a lot of people who weren't in conversation join conversation. So that
Yeah.
is hugely encouraging to me. In the aftermath, and then watching the votes count, I wasn't surprised, but I was definitely I I refuse to ignore how close it was.
I hear people saying that it was close. The race itself was close, but the win was a landslide, which is possible considering the fact of how votes are counted in the U.S. and the whole politics around that. And then you have mail-in votes and you have the electoral college. There's a lot of different there's a lot of different things at play when it comes to voting in the U.S. It's not as simple as you cast the ballot and the tally of that ballot is whoever has the majority wins. No, it's more complex system than that. It's almost as though people are voting in line with what their representatives in the electoral college would place forward, right? So that's touching more so on the misinformation that comes about in this whole period when you're talking about, oh, that's weird and it's a close race and it wasn't a close race and we can't ignore that. It's just a very the US voting system seems very complicated is what it seems like. And I wonder if you guys feel the same way and feel that same complicatedness outside of just the information, but in how the system actually works.
So I am probably in the minority, especially in terms of Black people, who I remember being taught about the Electoral College as a kid in school. I remember that. I remember as a part of U.S. history. And maybe it was because I was taking advanced classes. Maybe it was in those, but I feel like it was even younger, but it doesn't matter. I feel like I
You do
remember
look like an AP history student for sure.
shit. I didn't, as a Black person, my AP history teacher, no, she was raw. My other AP teacher did not agree with that. But yo, shout out Miss Linda, man. She was actually raw. But what was I saying? Something about
Just
history.
in terms
Oh,
of the
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I remember being taught about the Electoral College as a kid, as a young kid, and just thinking then, like, just it being stuck in my mind that it's not one vote, the most votes total, right? Like, is the winner, whoever has more votes. It's not going to be, X amount of million versus X amount of, there's a bug, X amount of 100,000. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I remember thinking that as a kid. So when it has come back up in different elections, I think it came up with Bush. I think it came up with Barack, and it's coming up again. I've always thought, like, I've always just had it in my mind, like, that is how it works, and that doesn't make the most sense to me, but like, I've never.
That's how it goes.
That's how it goes, right? That's how a lot of things in this country are. They were designed hundreds of years ago, and you know what I'm saying? We never decided to change them or do anything to fix that. So in this moment, right? Like, when I say that I won't forget how close this was. Like, when I think about, bro, like, when you do think about the millions of votes and the millions of votes versus, right? It wasn't a landslide everywhere. And just the sheer amount of people that, having seen what he is capable of, what he is not capable of, and what he will do in office, that came back to vote for him again, bro. Like, I won't forget that. That's an important lesson. Like, and speaks volumes about the state of our country, right?
Yeah.
We're approaching 250,000 deaths of COVID. We're supposed to hit that before the end of November. That is largely his fault. You know what I'm saying? So for people to be willing to vote for him speaks to a mix of ignorance and neglect, willful neglect of other people and of real issues that I won't forget personally. So in this moment, yeah, I'm glad Biden won because he's a more reasonable candidate, but I'm by no means thinking that the Biden Harris ticket is a ticket that is like naturally for Black people, right? This feels like a win, but it's not. It is a win. It is a demonstration of our power as a community and voting, but there is still, what do we always say on this podcast? Bro, there's always more work to be done. You're always uncovering more work. So I think we've definitely uncovered the work of, okay, now we have politicians that might listen to us,
Yeah.
that we can to some extent hold accountable for their vote in 4 years. So how are we going to take advantage of that and continue to have serious conversations? And the last thing I'll say before I throw it back to you is that we spoke before on this podcast about what is the moment where like there are these moments where terrible things happen, right? And in response to that, everybody gets woke, everybody demonstrates their care for that particular issue. Now that we won in certain places in a political sense, now is the time, right? When we're no longer the political underdog, when it's going to be less and less fashionable, right, to
Yeah.
continue to push the narratives that we still need to, there are much more wins and much more important battles to be fought and won. Now is the moment. Now starts the in between time. So are you going to put
Yeah.
down your, sword, pen, book, keyboard
Post.
right now? Or are you going to be one of the people that continues to fight the fight, continues to care about these issues until, it, like, don't wait for it to be not looking so good again to get
Yeah.
to be ready and stay prepared. So that's where I'm at. That's how
We'll
I
see.
feel.
We'll see who steps up. Who steps up on the play for it? Have you seen Chappelle's SNL monologue?
I have seen Chappelle's SNL monologue, and it's funny because a friend of mine from London, she sent me a text, and no, that's the monologue. Am I not Chappelle? I'm Chappelle, right?
You are the you are Dave Chappelle
I am Dave Chappelle.
from the Chappelle Show. Yes.
Where's my cigarette?
You are Dave Chappelle.
Oh, it was dope.
Yeah.
No, it was dope.
I watched it, and I think the same feeling of how close it got and how disappointed one feels in this in their fellow countrymen is, I think he catches that quite brilliantly, in its face, just to kind of remind people that, listen, even before COVID, this country was still in a state that was deteriorating socially. Social issues were at a paramount. Mass shootings were getting out of hand, things of that nature. So, but obviously, when Chappelle does it, it's always got a lot more sauce on the delivery. And I would encourage anybody to go watch it. It's a nice, it's a it's a it's a nice piece from a thinker in the US on their current feelings on the state of the country. It's not very joyous, which I find very interesting.
I'm sure it's not lost on Chappelle the irony of creating the what does Ja Rule think at a time like this, and then
Yes.
as a black celebrity, then becoming a voice where legitimately I do want to know what Chappelle thinks at a
Yeah.
time like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Regardless of any lack of political or academic credentials. So,
Mhm.
um, but I think that lack of joy, that lack of, like, there's a small sense of relief, but not um, a sense of finality for a lot of
Mm.
us, right? And that is, I mean, that's how it should be. There's a lot still to be done. Um, I think one thing that comedians, especially like Chappelle, are very good at and often like draw out and point out is that, like, you can be on the right side of an important issue accidentally, right?
Yeah.
If you can be indoctrinated by whatever news media family that you've been indoctrinated by and end up believing correctly
Mhm.
the right things about a certain issue without having seriously given it and the surrounding issues and other peripheral and I'm gonna use the big word analogous, right?
Mm.
Like issues that are the same thing, that
Anal logos.
issues that parallel each other, right? Like you can be completely like ignorant to all of those things. And I think comedians often like, are very good at drawing that out. Bill Burr, I think, also did that in a very similar space. I think he was also on SNL.
Mm.
Chappelle definitely did that, like when he pauses and he made some joke about Trump, and then he's like, it's like a woke meeting in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
real,
Yeah.
And
I like that.
yeah, it's good to
I
be able
I
to
think
balance.
I think we bodied the first topic. I think that was a good succinct body on the first topic, which moves us. How do you feel about that?
Bucket.
Bucket. I like that. I like that. I think that's solid. That stands. And now we move on to stumble upon, bro. Stumble upon is I'm still trying to figure out exactly what we mean by stumble upon, and this is the first time we're taking this car out on the ride. So, um, let's go about it.
Do you wanna? I mean, I feel like I have so many because my week has been so weird. But the only like one of the more ridiculous ones is, well, not even ridiculous. One of the like weirder, more out there ones is coming to me. So do you got anything?
If you got something that slaps more than what stumbling onto a digital detox, I'd definitely rather end with that. So I'll start with the fact that this week I decided to do a digital detox. It was just a concept that I stumbled upon, and it was just a whole exercise. It was more than anything a mental exercise to see what happens to the brain when you don't have when you decide not to have your phone around you and your laptop or anything like that.
This is
A
your
lot of the
brain.
time, yeah, this is your
This is your
brain on
brain on technology.
oh, for sure, dude, for sure. And so going through that process, one of the more interesting things I found at first is that there were a lot of people I had to notify. I found that very interesting. I had to tell a few people like, hey, yo, I'm not going to be available when you reach out to me. These are the reasons I'm going to be doing it. Interesting. That's one of them. And then another thing too was just the concept of time. I realized that we're always locked into um our time, having so much reminder of what time it is, and constantly having that information distorts our perception of time in terms of the things we could accomplish within certain amounts of time and what we don't, and the time that's taken up by distraction, by minimal distraction. I found that extremely fascinating, not knowing what time it is until for a whole day. It's like your concept on what time is kind of shifts a bit. But more than anything, brother, I think it was a healthy exercise, an exercise of being present that I thoroughly recommend to anybody. It's something that I'm going to incorporate into my mental health arsenal for sure.
How do you feel now? How do you feel different?
Very very present and very peaceful. Even leaving, I had my phone locked up in the car, so when I got into the car to take the drive back home, I didn't even play music. I didn't even feel to look into being distracted. So it definitely opens up a space for a presence of mind. So that's where I'm at with it, quite present.
Dope, dope.
Yeah, thought so too. Would you ever do something like that?
Your presence is a present, my G.
Oh man.
I think yeah, I would love to do something like that. I think I would have to take a vacation, right, from work. There would be a lot of people to notify. I do that in small ways, right? So I'll do it social media, but still keep my phone on and
Mm,
active. But it is a different further and important step, I think, to like completely turn it off and completely be away from all that stuff. Um it kind of makes me nostalgic. As a little kid, like one of my favorite things to do, like not even as a little kid, like even when I was like in high school and shit, like a game I used to play with my like girlfriend, it was just like at any given moment, if she like needed to know what time it was, like before checking her phone, she would just ask me, right? And I would just like
yeah.
try real hard to like think of what the best time, like what time I thought it was based on the last
Mm,
time I looked at a clock. And it's crazy because as I became an adult, that just became an impossible game to play. I had too many meetings, I had too many places I
yeah.
needed to be at a certain time, right? That was just I can't know. I mean, I can kind of play that game in between the hours, right? But like it's not the same, you know?
It's not the same.
So yeah, I would love to be in that space again. I mean, I do that to the fullest extent I can when I'm on vacation, but I'm an addict for music, so I'm always there's always the
Yes.
music and the Bluetooth thing. So how was this weekend without that for you?
That was undoubtedly the most difficult part of it. Was the music thing. I was fortunate that I was around people who were on their phones and play music that I enjoy. So, but that was definitely one of those things of of relinquishing. Another interesting thing too, brother, was things we do when we head to the bathroom, when we're cooking, when we're in the kitchen. You don't realize that you are there's a lot of filler entertainment that you utilize your phone with, especially like what I'd call um transitional int- uh, transitional entertainment. Let me put it that way. Transitional entertainment. And it's quite time consuming, it's quite time consuming, and it takes you away from being present. So I remember doing the dishes thinking, damn, I wish I could be watching Breaking Bad right now. But that's the whole concept of being present, is to nullify those desires to a certain extent. And also reading a bunch, just reading a bunch. That was very, very helpful.
Yeah, I feel like if anything this year, with the fewer like films that are coming out and the fewer
Mm,
like, it's been TV shows here and there, um, but yeah, with that lack of continuous content in your face, you know what I mean? Stream this,
yeah.
and this season of this is starting as soon as this season ends,
Podcasts.
right? It's definitely like not forced me to read because I love to read, but it's would be interested to hear from a lot of different people and like ask people like, have
Mm.
they felt more inclined to read just because ain't that much that's popping on TV and in movies, you know? Niggas been waiting for
Reading
Tenet to
is a
drop for
dying
9
sword,
months,
bro.
nigga, like a damn baby.
Reading is a dying form of entertainment, bro. It is. Um, Off to our last topic of the day, which we initially had wanted to be for social media and personal relations to it. I wanted to call an audible, bro, and speak to you off the heels of sadly the death of King Von, a Chicago rapper. Very promising at the age of 26, was shot in Atlanta. This is not new. This is not only not new, this is common, especially about Chicago rappers. FBG Duck was one of the more recent to perish in a similar manner. What is going on, bro? What's going on?
A lot is going on. And like I can give you books. There are books being written about what's going on,
Mhm.
by people who have been studying this for longer than I've been helping as much as I try to. But I would say that you've systematically backed and stripped away every like resource that like a person can rely on, right? So like and in places where you've tried to institutionally help them, you've done you've taken half measures to correct for whole steps backwards, right? So when we look at, and I mean like, I don't know, we can put the link to when I was on, we can put the link to my talk about redlining in the comments or something like that. But you look at the denial of the access to wealth, you look at the biggest, largest school closures in the country have happened in Chicago. The largest public housing closures have happened in Chicago. So you're displacing people, you're not providing them with alternative housing, you're not providing them with proper education, right? They What economy are they supposed to participate in, right? I mean, there was so I mean, this like what is going on is that you have kids, and when we specifically talk about drill music and violence in Chicago, you have kids that are participating in an economy of attention, right? They are
Mm.
online, they are creating what is basically
Oh,
self-destructive content depicting the most like extreme aspects of what happens in this community as true to their persona, and in doing so everybody clicks on it. I
mm,
love the music, I click on it, you know what I mean? People click on it to see the drama, people click on it to see the chains, the money, people click on it for
mm,
a whole bunch of reasons, but glorifying these extreme aspects of what happens here, there's a market for it, undeniably. King Von was just sold 25,000 records. So,
Mm,
you know what I mean? Like, and had some of the biggest records of this year. Took it to the O. Crazy Story. Like,
mm.
you know,
Crazy
people,
Story didn't come out this year though, but I know what you're saying.
yeah, but like, you know what I'm saying? People are consuming this content. And so they're rewarding this depiction. Now, what happens when, as soon as you try to leave that, as soon as you try and stop participating in that violence for real, right? If as soon as you're not, as soon as you're trying to do better, now you don't have a gun on you all the time. Now your people are trying to move better. Now they don't have a gun on you all the time. And you're a target, right? You are you are head honcho, you are clout god, right? So now everybody who's looking for some clout is trying to take you out, right? And it don't take nothing but some slight on social media or the wrong gang affiliation to give a nigga a reason to want to do that, because he doesn't have a rap career. He has nothing.
Yeah.
He's participating in the economy of attention. And you know what'll get him a lot of attention? Taking you out, right? For him and for his gang. And so, like, I mean, what is going on? I can't even give it all to you. Like, you know what I mean?
It's too much. It's too much to give.
Going on. But what I'll tell you is not as simple as you have, you know, kids that are committing violence for no reason. It's not as simple as these are, you know, terrible kids. They're just kids. You know what I mean?
They're
And
just kids.
and it's not. And even when you are here, you can tell that who's really about that life versus who's perpetrating it versus who's walking the line to get attention. It's a lot more of these kids that are just kids than are actually shooters, that are actually about the perpetration of this violence. But so much attention and so much clout and so much comes from and protection, bro. So what's stopping if you look like you are a bad motherfucker, if you look like you stay strapped, if you never lacking, then nobody's gonna try you. You know what I mean? So you have to, part of
Perception.
it is perception is protection, right? And so in this book I just read, bro, like there was this really interesting case where this kid
What's the name of the book, by the way?
The book is called, damn, I hate these names of the books, but the book is called The Ballad of the Bullet.
Okay.
right.
Blackity black struggle.
But it's very good. And in the book, there's this kid that goes to court after a gun charge, and the judge is reading off his social media, like, and he's talking shit to his ops in his social media. And the judge is like, you're clearly still engaged in all of this violence and all of this stuff. But whole time, bro stopped carrying a gun and was talking shit to get people to hopefully make them still consider to leave him alone because he might still be strapped, right? So on one hand, you have what's happening, bro. On one hand, you have the police and the judicial system and the criminal justice system who take what's going on and what they see on, because they're watching YouTube videos, bro, as intel. You know what I mean? They're taking all of that at face value.
Whereas the police at the internet.
And on Facebook, but they're watching you through the lens of what you portray, right? And so the police are taking it at face value. You wave a gun, you know what I mean, on Facebook, this dude has guns, this dude be around guns, right? So now they're coming to get you. Whole time you don't, that's the block gun. You share that gun with 3 or 4 of your homies, right? But you got to take a picture of it on Instagram that day to try and up your clout, because everybody who's in the community doesn't take that at face value. They take they need you to consistently prove what you're about. Otherwise, they question you. Otherwise, they'll try you. So you have people looking at it from 2 different sides because of there's a collapse of context. And I didn't make that up. That also came from the book. It's a good book. I don't love that title.
It's a great term, though. That's a great term.
It's a collapse of context, right? So people don't have the correct context for this shit. But sad, bro.
It's sad, B. It's sad, B. We're getting to a point in time now where not only are we numb to this thing, but it's increasing in its frequency. You know, I'm not sure if there was ever another time in hip hop where so many young kids were dying at such a high rate when it comes to this beefing stuff, you know. And so that sounds so old saying beefing stuff, this beefing thing, but as a fellow young black man, it definitely does hurt to see potential talent potential talent just be lost like that. There's something very painful about that. It's like a requiem for a dream almost, where a high tide raises all ships. And so no matter in which ways that we as black people are able to get successful, there's a lot of families behind that eat and come up. There's a lot of children that get opportunities that never got it, that they've never had before, and they get a chance to come up. There's a lot of people that can, there's a lot of job creation around one successful black man. There's a lot of that, right? There's a lot of lives that change around that. And so seeing an opportunity like that go away is really the saddest aspect of it. But I'm so glad that you broke it down exactly as to what the issue is, because from the outside it seems as though it's almost dismissible because of how bad it is. It's like, things are bad things are bad in Sudan. Yeah, things are very bad in Sudan, but things are always bad in Sudan. Therefore, we don't care. You know,
These are just kids, bro. These are just kids.
it's
Like,
kids. That's another thing. They're just kids.
and it's hard, bro. Like I was literally like, you know what I mean? Like that's Von wasn't my favorite rapper, right? Like I wasn't looking
Mm,
at Von like I looked at Nipsey, but I respected exactly what you just said. How many people, regardless of like people eat when a black man
mm,
when a black man gets money. If he's doing it his if he handling his business right, people eat
mm.
when a black man gets money. And so to know that not only are the people that were like, bro, that's brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews going to college. That's not happening
Yeah,
now. You
yeah.
know,
That
that's
that
that's
is.
that's ways out for other people that have nothing to do with this. So when I read that, G, I was like straight just heartbroken, bro. And I'm so tired of feeling this way. I'm so tired of saying rest in peace. Um, to and I'm so tired of like these kids are not dumb, bro. These kids see all this. I was talking to a group of teenagers not 2 weeks ago about their favorite rappers, and they didn't include Von on their list of favorite rappers because they said he was too violent, he was too disrespectful. And while that was mind blowing to me, they all as young kids in this generation, they saw, I think, where the line is and
Yeah.
where you can live, right? And they saw him cross it. And that's not for me to say. That's not for, I mean, that's not really for anybody to say, but what I am saying is that these kids are not dumb. These kids are witnessing all of this. These kids are, and they have to live in it every day. So no matter what you have to say or how you feel about what you think is happening in Chicago, if you're not here, if you don't love these people, then you don't and you don't care to understand what's going on, then shut up, bro. Like for
Yeah.
real. For real.
Because you don't know what's going on over there.
Listen,
We and
read.
we'll keep, yeah, listen, that's a big one. And we'll keep circling around that conversation. It's not the first time we've had it on this pod, and I doubt it's ever going to be the second time that we have it on the pod either. But it's an important question to keep. It's an important issue for us to keep highlighting and circling, because one, it's the reality of, family and proximity, and also I think it touches on a lot of other social issues when it talks on redlining, disenfranchised and displaced people, no economic activity, your LSM communities, your black and impoverished communities. All those issues tend to boil up perfectly in the situation that's happening in Chicago, and there's a lot of relevancy into it. So I'm glad that we keep circling around it, and we'll continue to do so to the best of our capabilities in this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and go hug somebody, especially,
Yes,
especially,
like a young black kid, bro.
right?
A young black man.
Right. Circling back to Chappelle, I love that his suggestion for America was do a random act of kindness for a black person
Yeah,
that you don't
not
think.
because he deserve it, that he don't think deserves it. I love that. Wrapping it up now with our final segment of the show is conversation with strangers. conversation with strangers.
Well, how much time are we
I'm
at? Because I
still.
actually wanted to double back on the social media conversation just a little bit.
Let's double back on the social media conversation, brother. We're sitting at 40. I think we're at a cool 40 right now.
Cool. So,
Mm,
and I think it plays well into you saying like disconnecting from it too, right? So
mm,
clearly we just saw me get all worked up and shit. Like rest in peace, King Von. Like we saw me like
yeah.
really like this is my work, this is my job, and like every single black person that dies in Chicago from gun violence feels like a L to me. Feels like personal,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I have to kind of be able to compartmentalize and go about my day, but how I want to bring that into the social media conversation is you were saying how good it felt to kind of distance yourself from that, and I've always inherently been drawn to the same thing, like just not want to be on social media that much.
Mm,
But as I continue to find myself to be the youngest person in a lot of the spaces that are like doing community work, as I continue to find myself like receiving emails and trying to communicate through emails and forwarding emails, opportunities and stuff like that, like at what point, and even trying to have serious conversations about real shit on this podcast, at what point does it become a responsibility, like all the way full circle, to get back to social media and like try and put some positivity out that way and provide opportunities and spread knowledge,
yeah.
and you know what I mean? Does that become a responsibility again at a certain point, or and am I being less effective than I could be as an organizer? It seems like the answer is almost absolutely yes, right? If I have no
Yeah.
social media presence.
I asked myself that a lot too. I asked myself that a lot too. And the truth of it, I know we have these conversations is I'm I'm not entirely too sure what it, what opportunities you're missing in today's day and age. What I do know for a fact though is that it is not a determinant to success. I do think that there are people who become successful who have a very minor participation in it, but I do think that it serves relevancy when it comes in the form of a marketing tool. And then we start talking about, what is authentic and genuine to market, and not necessarily falling into the same marketing tricks and traps that a lot of people on social media use now. The purchasing of likes, the purchasing of followers, regurgitating regurgitating similar content just off the hopes of clout and clickbaiting and things of that nature. So there's definitely a more perverse way of doing that, of marketing in that way. But at the same time, brother, I think it's super important for all of us to be our biggest PR machines. I think that's the beautiful thing of social media, is that you can take control of what your narrative and image and presence is online. I, for one, personally, try to focus that on my work with the foundation and the information that I share, or in the information that I find relevant. That is my focus on occupying that space in social media, and then utilizing platforms that allow for that to ring out in the loudest rooms that I can. Anything other than that, I find not to be very much into. My personal life is I read, bro. I read. I hang out with family. It's boring. I don't see the I don't feel compelled to document my life in that manner, unless it's for a spread of information, the work that we're doing here, and helping people.
Doesn't feel like motivation, dude. You don't want to show all the stuff that you got, what you're accomplishing, to motivate everybody else.
Nah, B. No one gets to look in the kitchen. They
Except
don't get to look in the kitchen.
except here on the All the Way Live
Except,
podcast.
except here, bro. Except here, real talk.
But the
That's like the
secret sauce
value of this
is
podcast.
that this is the kitchen.
This is the
This is the
kitchen.
kitchen. Welcome to the kitchen, goddammit. You gonna add that to the intro?
Th- That's the intro. Welcome to the kitchen where we cook a batch of that truth.
Indeed, cooking up, cooking
To
up.
kick a batch of that truth. It's We're running an experiment right now, in terms of finding out what is the right distance of relationship to have with social media and to have a podcast and to understand the value of a following. This is our experiment into seeing what that looks like for people who aren't necessarily who don't spend too much time on those platforms.
Yeah, and we'll see. We'll see.
It's a social experiment. It's a social experiment for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
If I can grab it off the backboard,
Mhm.
because I think this blends well into conversation with strangers.
Get them.
What would you like this segment to be?
I think it can be. I think it can be anything. I mean, I've got. It can be a conversation like that you had with a stranger, but it could also. I mean, in COVID, sometimes that's difficult, but it can also just be like a space you were in, a conversation that maybe you weren't a part of, but that you heard, or somebody was telling you something. I just want it to be some type of input from like the outside world. You know what I mean? That has nothing to do with the podcast, or like, preferably not anything that has anything super to do with like current events either. Just some random outside world stuff.
We're jumping around, but you were supposed to tell me a story.
I also
I
stumbled
stumble
upon.
upon. I stumble
Yeah.
upon.
So
Forgive me.
no, you're good. You're good. So bless you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And there are a lot of topics that we might touch upon like later in different parts of the story. So I had I had to move my entire music library, 20,000 songs, right?
Mm.
From Google Music to iTunes because Google Play Music closed and it became YouTube Music, which is ass. I don't know if I said that on this podcast before, but that's
You
just
have. We know the podcast knows how I feel about it.
all right. So I had to do all that, which was like it was a lot. You know what I mean? Just to even upload 20,000 songs means your computer has to sit in one place, kind of undisturbed for a long
Charged.
time. Yeah, charged for a long time. And do the things. You got to monitor it. It's a lot. But in doing all that, I needed something to watch. And I was like, all right, well, let's see what I'm gonna find on Netflix. So I went on Netflix and I stumbled upon
Mm-hmm.
I forget the actual name of the show, but it's like Leia Rami, Scientology, and the Aftermath.
Oh, Leah Remini.
Yeah, Remini. My bad. But yes. Have you seen that shit?
No, but I saw her interview with Joe Rogan on she had a spot on Joe Rogan, and she's been a proponent of anti-Scientology. But what'd you think?
Bruh.
Talk to me.
They are like jamming. Can you hear that?
Wow. Yes. Wow. They turned it down.
That's what happens in the hood when Trump doesn't get reelected.
Yeah. Noise for days.
Is this stationary? Are you driving, sir?
this
is okay.
Is this for everybody? Is this for me? What's going on?
Bruh, because I'm in it happens a lot with cars coming by, but I don't know what that was. That might have been a car or somebody crap. Anyway,
Leah Remini.
Bro, it's deeply sad, right? It is. It is deeply sad. But I found myself watching a lot of it, like just in the background as I'm organizing music. I'm also like, because when it took it off of Google Music, where I had organized it, it took away all the artwork, all the proper identification for all the tracks. So now every track is, Moneybag Yo _ feet _ $, Lil _ baby .mp3. Like, I got to change some of those, right?
I can't jig you to this.
But about 4 episodes in, they were explaining how they keep you there, but they don't, like, you know what I mean? It's just like you can run away, but you just gotta. It's not. They're not gonna shoot you or kill you if you run away,
Yeah, but they'll scorn you.
but they'll scorn you. And I'm listening to it, and a ugly, ugly voice popped in the back of my head and said, "That sounds like a choice."
That sounds like a choice.
But what's fucked up when you think about it is that they're raising kids in this. Like kids are born into this and just thinking from rip, like boom.
This is
You're saving the world. You're one of the few. Like there is nothing else, right? No exposure to anything else. And it was just very interesting to just watch this and to see all the ways in which Scientology indoctrinates people and keeps them away from outside influences. And it was just really striking. It was, I mean, I ended up watching at least one season of the show because it was an interesting, my brain keeps going back and forth from watching it and just being like, this shit is nuts. But then like having these deep thoughts about like, well, in the same way that Scientology continues to feed you and string you along on a particular belief system, well, our algorithms of our devices do a very similar
I like where
thing,
you're going.
right? Like the media that we watch does a very similar thing. And I mean, I think this touches upon a lot that we've talked about in this episode, but like being right on accident in some cases, or, you know, the neutrality of if you're misinformed and you just happen to believe the right thing or the wrong thing, like what's the difference between those things is your actions, right? And so it's just like I'm going back and forth and having these like crazy thoughts about how in an extreme sense you could think of two-party ideology, you could think of other different religions, you could think of other aspects of like the way that people identify as indoctrination and of a very similar sort. And it was just kind of like a really good balance of like, but also hold up, I gotta watch this because she just got in the trunk and like she's escaping. You know what I mean? So that was a good show. But yeah, no, I'm sure I'm wrong about some things, but that's how I know I'm not that's how I know I'm not Scientology wrong, because I know I'm wrong. Yeah.
It touches on the question of indoctrination, and that's why I was like, I like where you're going with it, because there is a big conversation to be had on the fact that a lot of us believe what we believe for the fact that we were told that this is what we have to believe.
Oh, I went to church today.
100%, 100%. And so the feeling of being right, you're not wrong in the sense that you definitely believe you're right, but also being objective is to understand that you're right because you have been told that you're right, not necessarily that that is the truth. And the truth of it is that everybody, at least what I see from the truth, is that there's a lot of right and wrong in a lot of these different indoctrinations, and it's up to a conscious mind to explore those things and create a reality for themselves that is boundless of whatever indoctrination one can have. And that's the part of religion that
Say that
I
again?
get a question. It's gone now, pimpin'.
You had it. It's like you said it was like the responsibility of every person is to figure out the balance. Damn, you killed that. Whatever. I hope y'all was taking that.
but real, oh yeah, but like it's our duty. It's everyone's individual journey to swim by those indoctrinations to create a reality for themselves. And I'd like to think that that's where I'm at with it, you know, which actually, by not believing in a lot of religions, it actually allows me to accept a lot of religions. I can go to church and pray with people in church, even though I'm not entirely fully in agreement with the whole construct. But that to me is a space for me to meditate. And instead of praying to a particular name or whatever, I take that as a space of people who are concerting a different type of energy and frequency. And I can then, you know, relate my own frequency and energy into whatever I believe in. And I feel that way about different churches and religions and whatever the case is trying to find where I exist amongst those in that world.
Yeah, man, it's a trip. I thank you for sharing that. it really made me think about. So I went to church today,
Yeah.
and I was asked to go by a colleague of mine who's a pastor and who I get along with very well. And I was there, and I realized I hadn't even thought about going to church since like this one day in college where you came in my room and you were like, bruh, we going to church. And I was like, what? And you were like, we going to church in like 30 minutes. And I was like, nigga, what? Church. And I was like, okay, cool. We got to get ready for church. Got to go.
Oh, whatever.
And it just made me realize that, like, I'm in this conflicted space because it was, they did the thing where they, I've been to church. I was raised in a Black church. So they always do the call for if you would like to.
Oh,
be
yeah.
saved.
The guess.
Yeah. You know, if you would like to be saved, if you would like to make this your church, he looking dead at me. If you would like to make this your church.
Just got here. I don't know all the members.
It's messed up because I do know all the members because I've been the churches where I do the food pantry.
But not like really though. Like I kind of know the members. I
No,
need to
I
know
know
them on
all.
an intimate level.
I know them all, and they know me. He's like, if you would like to make this your church, and I looked at him, and I was like, nigga, you don't know me. I was like, nigga,
You don't know
I
me, bro. Before you start asking me, dog, you don't know me.
I appreciate the gesture. This is beautiful. It's a beautiful day. It's a lovely day. But so two things I want to say about that experience is it was, if I was gonna join a church again, it would be that church because it was this service. Unfortunately, it's probably one of the last ones that they'll be able to do outdoors because the Chicago weather ain't gonna have that for much longer. But we're sitting there amongst the grass, and they have like a very small band. The pastor's daughter is a part of it. She is singing her ass off. Like it's like 40 people, but they are all just, people that I know and see, and they are just also like lifted up by this. And I'm sitting in it, and it's reminding me of Black church as a little kid when I was still, so like, I don't want to say I was like a Jesus kid, but like I when I went to church, I did feel that, and I was like, damn,
Felt the energy.
I felt the energy, and I felt that the church was a safe space wholeheartedly, right? Now that changed over the years, but to be in a very emotionally safe space, to feel like that, and to be there, it just made me realize that I'm in this tough place. And especially when he was like, if you would like to join this church, I was like, damn. I mean, if I was gonna join the church, I would, but it also brought me to this point where, and as you alluded to, right, using that space for meditation, I'm in this strange place where I feel like my relationship with whatever God is, the higher power of the universe, has been, not always, but at least recently, so healthy when I've taken responsibility for that connection myself.
Yeah.
Right. And I find myself, even as somebody who was raised in a Black church and who loves so much of that tradition, I find it difficult to relinquish control of that connection to my beliefs, to my higher power, to anybody else again. You know what I mean? Because I do feel spiritually connected on a daily basis. I do my own version of like meditating or praying or whatever, but like just being present and being grateful and just, being humble and just trying to take a moment to be connected with the universe and be thankful for my breath, be thankful for like the water that I drink. Yeah, everything. And that has been so fulfilling to me that it's weird to just be like considering, or to have been put in a position to consider like, let me guide your spiritual journey now.
Yeah.
Christ and God and all that shit again. You know what I mean? And it's like,
I don't know if that's where I'm trying to go with that.
You know?
I don't know if that's the direction I'm trying to go with that. It gets deeper for me, dude, as an African, and I'm sure you know it resonates for you and many other Africans as well. Is that, um, you know, I think it's always important to take things as they are. You know, the fact that religions, especially those that stem from early Jewish religions, they all there's a certain window of time that they all satisfy, and their purpose is also very much the same. There has to be, and now we're talking about the successful drive of religions. Why some religions have succeeded and why others haven't. We're getting to talk about which religions focused on missionary work, which was the spreading of which is the spreading of religion, which is not necessarily that wasn't necessarily the norm um for for a very long time when you talk about animism and polyatheism, where you
Polyamory?
know polyamory could be your religion. I mean, look, dude, you can do whatever you want, but with those two things, with those two types of religions, which were the earlier religions, there was not so much a focus on missionary work. A lot of those religions were very localized, and they really moved to satisfy local needs. For instance, if you lived in a place where there was a waterfall, you'd have to pray to the waterfall god for the waterfall to drop on a certain day. That is the religion of that area. Now, if you try to export that religion outside of that area, it won't necessarily resonate. And as the world continued to become more connected in its trade and its commerce, and the sizes of communities and organizations kept on increasing, the necessity for a spiritual guidance that was more omnipresent and answered more questions became more relevant, because that would then be able to encompass a lot more people. So the intention of things is always very important to look at, you know, despite how spiritually satisfying they are right now. The intention of things, in the manner which it's delivered, in the packaging which it comes with, who it comes with, at the timing that it comes with, a lot of that stuff is very important. And so as an African, it's very difficult for me to be able to digest this type of spiritual food, given the fact that, one, it's not relevant necessarily to the ground in which I come from. It was delivered by the same hand that would beat me, and also the same people that invested in its missionary work are the same people that oppressed my people. So it's just very difficult to digest that spoon of information. And it, you know, full circle again, it's all about indoctrination. It gets us talking about indoctrination and what we believe and what we don't believe, and the contradictions that are within that. And a higher thinking mind looks to accept and assume those faults in religion, but still look for the higher meaning in this whole life thing.
Yeah, that's deep, bro. And I think something that, as I've tried to develop my own sense of,
Mm.
connection with whatever I feel, is responsible for creation and the life I live. Um, it's been really interesting just to like try and build that connection, and then also realize, even as an individual person, right? I'm not about to go on a crusade like the Church of
Yeah.
Miles, goddamn it. You know what I mean?
Hallelujah.
But even in giving advice, right? Like even in just like having not even like kind of what I'll call semi-spiritual conversations with people, right? I try and keep in mind that I'm a low anxiety person,
Mm.
right? I'm a it's very easy for me to have faith in the world because I've been forced to do so in so many cases, and I died. You know what I mean? Like it's for better or worse, whether it was a smart decision or not, I've left my life in the hands of faith, and
Chance.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean. And so it's easy for me to feel like everything past a certain point is extra. You know what I mean? The fact that I
Mm,
wake up and do what I love and get paid for it and help people and talk to my brother and talk to my family and you know
mm,
what I mean? Like get to do like trunk parties for kids as a part of my
mm.
job. And then people turn around and go, good job for that. Like it's very easy for me to say, just trust the process, baby. Just have
Yeah,
faith. Just give it
just
just
have
water.
faith.
Just water and trap music, baby.
Yeah.
Be fine. I try and keep that in mind when I'm talking to people because, as you said, right, not whether somebody is able to digest the advice, the
Mm,
information, the spiritual guidance that you give them depends on their experience and depends on their
mm,
readiness for that and what stage they are in life. You know what I mean? And so, always being conscious of being prescriptive about what you do for somebody else is rarely going to have the same
dangerous.
effect. Um,
Mm,
which doesn't mean don't have conversations and don't share your experiences and what you do with people, but it speaks to that. I don't ever try to indoctrinate anybody, and I think
yeah.
it's very important to say that this podcast is not trying to like tell people to think a certain way. If anything, it's think however you want.
Exposing how we think.
Yeah,
It's making a safe space to express how we think.
right, right.
Mm,
So do you be you and encourage others to be the best version of themselves, and try and root your advice in that, right? Don't try and m- make other people who are struggling into the best version of you, you know.
Hey, bro, someone sounds like they've been talking to a therapist.
I've been just talking to you for an hour.
And how do you really feel about that?
Hey
Nah,
man.
and I think that's a beautiful energy. That's a beautiful cliff note and energy to to put a solid bow on it. And I think we even ran through all of these topics. How do you feel about this new structure?
I like it. I like it. I think there's a balance to be struck where we can open it up, casual, mess around for a little bit, get into the dap up, and then break down the topics. I think that works
Mm,
because I want to give them even a little bit more energy before
it's
the
the
structure,
exact.
and then lay it all the way out. Um, I think it's good, bro. I felt good about it going through it. How'd you feel?
Yeah, man. I think the flow is definitely there. I look forward to listening back to it tomorrow. I really do.
Yeah, yeah,
Hey,
man.
man.
What a time. What a time. Wow. Anything else that we need to talk about? Any music? Anything?
We touched King Von. We touched on King Von. We touched on. I'm not gonna lie. I've been out of touch with music right now. Yeah, I've been disconnected for the weekend, so I'm gonna have to double back and see what's there. But we can make provision for that on this on this program of ours.
All right, well, it's all good. Straight like that. Listen,
Hmm.
listen. Hug a black child.
Consensually, please.
That's why
Please.
we a team, baby. That's why we a team.
Yeah.
Why we a
Don't
team.
just go, don't just encourage everybody to go hug black children. Hey man, listen, hug someone that needs to be loved. Please. Share love with someone that needs love shared with them, even if you don't think they deserve it. It's not your call.
Word. Word. And I know in a lot of ways, it being November, getting through the election, this feels like the close of a chapter, but it's the beginning. It's the beginning of an opportunity. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? The like if you were working hard for what you believe in with Trump as the president, please, 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 please,
That
please
same
keep
energy.
working that. Yes, please keep working that hard. Please keep that same energy because we can make moves now. We got some little room to
Mm-hmm.
breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And we have people that will listen to reason at the very least. Whether or not they will act in accordance remains to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
But please keep shooting. Please keep taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Please keep loving on your family members. find ways to stay in touch and make this holiday season as fun as possible.
Indeed.
You know what I mean? Like, it's getting darker earlier on this side. It's getting there ain't no leaves on the trees. Ain't gonna be too much more of this yellow and orange beautifulness. So it's really gonna be a time to double down, get cozy with yourself, get cozy with your peoples. Like, take care of yourself. Mental health is so important.
So important.
Yeah. Next episode, we're gonna talk about how I stumbled upon how damn near all melanated people need more Sunny D. Y'all need Sunny D. You need it. Get your sunshine, get a supplement. But we'll talk more about that on the next episode. Look, I've been rambling, and I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know, we know.
We know. We know.
Yeah, I got too many options when it comes.
There's a lot, dude.
Too many options, bro. It's a whole sea.
There's a lot.
The whole ocean out there. But you know what? It's one or two people that chose to rock with us. And we appreciate y'all.
No, definitely.
Appreciate y'all rocking with All the Way Live, because this is live in the sense that we are celebrating life, live in the sense that we are celebrating. We are celebrating Black people. We are celebrating that Old Orange homeboy is about to lose his job.
Hey.
And with that energy, with that love, peace, water, we gone.